Yes, we're live. Good morning. Good morning to you, Joe. Good morning to Tim. Good
Good
morning to
morning.
myself.
Good
And
morning,
good morning to
everybody.
everybody. Yes, watching us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, listening to us in Clubhouse as well. It's a pleasure to once again have with us Dr. Joe Hug. And as you have already heard, Dr. Joe Hub is a polymath, entrepreneur, angel investor, and academic researcher. Also, he is a financial and business analyst. So, this is the next episode with him, and we're going to hear one of another fascinating story about a Japanese company that has been here for several decades. And we are also going to hear some things that probably will be very relevant to startup owners and startup founders, so that hopefully everybody, all of us, we can learn from this story. Before we dive into the topic though, and we start with the presentation that Dr. Hug Joe created for this podcast today, I would like to give a word of thank you to our first sponsor. So that is Kanchu. Kanchu is a company that is based in Yokohama. The full name of the company is Kanagawa Chuo Jutaku, so for short it is Kanchu, and they offer services in buying and selling real estate in Yokohama and Tokyo, and also in property management. And they also can work with you in English and Japanese. We have worked with them, we know them, so that's why we are very happy to have them as our sponsors here. And with this, Joe, I'm going to, well,
Take it
probably
away.
take it away. Yes. And
And
yes, tell me.
I
Yes.
I don't know if I wasn't listening before that I have that problem, but now I know where the name Kanachu comes from.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Or maybe I didn't mention it, but yes, it is Kanagawa Chuo Jutaku. Yes,
Yeah,
Kanachu.
I think of Pikachu. That's what I think when I hear it.
All
I
right.
was thinking of like a
Kanachu,
child's name.
Pikachu. It's Pikachu's boyfriend or
A
girlfriend or
Pikachu's
whatever their partner is, right? Kanachu.
Right. But it's
Easy to
always,
remember.
yes, very easy to remember. And I think that once you said that, probably more people will remember it. And also easily connect with James at kanacho.com, right? Or Hannah
Right,
at kanacho.com. Yeah.
right. But yeah, yeah. I wasn't paying attention before, but yeah, that's great. Kanagawa.
Here we
Yeah.
go. Yes.
Yeah. So
So,
yeah. Good morning, everyone. And
good
hopefully
morning.
everyone's got good holiday plans. Um, I know I do. Sleeping.
Yeah. A lot of that. Yeah.
And speaking of sleeping, actually today's topic, today's company, will touch upon a little bit about sleep. Believe it or not.
Good. Nice.
Right.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So when you think of cardboard boxes, what do you think of? Right. That's today's topic.
Wow.
Cats. No, I'm kidding.
Cats.
Cats. Yes. My cat loves them, even though yeah, she
It's
sometimes is
true.
not really. It's true, yes.
Okay.
But also, the thing, I always also think about moving, because we have moved from Bulgaria to Japan and within Japan several times. And every time we move, we get, a huge number of cardboard boxes delivered by the moving company so that we can put our things into them. And then
Yeah.
I also not relate, but associate those cardboard boxes with the unpacking process afterwards, which takes not just days but months.
I think I have some boxes that I've never opened yet from my last
Yeah.
move.
Yeah.
I don't want to know what's in there. Just
Yeah.
put it on it.
I guess I don't need it.
Right. Yeah. If you don't open them, obviously the things in them are not so necessary.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, today's topic is about cardboard, but that's not how it all began. So Yeah, if we could show the first slide, and I like to show slides because it's a nice visual to the
Mm-hmm.
storytelling.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree. Yeah.
yeah, and so today we're going to be talking about this manufacturing company that produces cardboard boxes for different reasons and purposes, and so they specialize in pulp paper, as you can read here, and have been in action since 1951. Uh, and then you see that picture there, the bottom left. I guess that's if you're looking
Yes.
at it like I am, bottom left. The
Yeah.
bluish colored box there. That's actually cardboard. So they designed that using cardboard. Isn't that nice? Isn't that beautiful?
It
Looks
looks
pretty nice.
beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. So the
Cardboard.
overall topic today is sustainable design, and the reason I named it this, that's not the name of the company, obviously, but the reason I named it this is because uh, the company's focus is on designing items for different purposes, but they're also thinking about sustainability. So they try to reuse old cardboards from
Mm-hmm.
from boxes and whatnot, and then create something new from it. So I think this is very interesting for anybody who's into design, but also into sustainability.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
If you don't, yes,
yeah,
if you don't mind me interjecting, just briefly
yeah,
here, is that
sure,
when you say pulp and when you say paper, I very seldom think of something that is as strong as cardboard. But
right,
thanks to, yes, exactly. But thanks to all these movings, I mean, we have moved from one place to another several times. I know now that cardboard can be really strong and very durable at the same time. So if you don't moisten it, if you don't pour water on it or maybe other chemicals, it can last for years and years and years and keep its shape. So I imagine that it's really something that we rarely think about.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's different kinds of cardboard I've discovered. Not
Hmm.
that I study cardboard, but
Right, yeah.
um, the other day I ordered some tea for students to drink. We had a group of students visit my university, and then I thought, what is something safe that all students might like? So, okay,
Hmm.
some simple tea. So I ordered a box, and as I picked it up, unfortunately the box broke open. So there was all these pet bottles all over the hallway. Uh,
Hmm.
and then I thought at the moment when that happened, I said, "Wow, I can't believe this cardboard box just tore open."
Hmm.
Um, when some other boxes I have difficulty tearing down, you know. So
Right, yeah.
there really
Mm.
is different
Yeah.
kinds, if you think
Hmm.
about it.
Moisture
Right.
Um,
is the enemy, right? Moisture.
it is. That's for sure. Um, so today we're going to be talking about this company, a little bit about the background of the company. And so if we could go to slide 2. They
Yes.
actually started from very humble beginnings. This is a family-owned company. It's on its third generation. However, it started out as a family farm, is how it started,
Hmm.
and
You mean
it.
agricultural farm, right?
Yeah, right. Like you got your veggies and your rice and whatnot.
Hmm.
So you would imagine that was the beginning of this company who specializes in cardboard. Um, but I think that is something that's really important, and the topics that we've been talking together is about the intersection between SMEs, what they do, and entrepreneurship, and that is having the ability to innovate. Number one, but also when there is an opportunity to pivot, right?
Right,
So move
yes.
away from your origins. You don't have to, if you're selling, for example, in this case, farming, if you're selling
Hmm.
vegetables or whatnot, it may not be the final destination, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, tatami mats, packing
Mm-hmm.
materials, ropes, baskets, wooden boxes, etc. Speaking of
Mm-hmm.
baskets, I'm gonna guess here that you have at least one basket at home.
Yes.
I got so
Yes, I
many.
do. That one too.
uh,
Yes.
oh, there
Right in
you
front of me.
go.
Yeah.
There's a
There's
giant
two
basket.
more where that came from, but go ahead. Yeah. Yeah.
They're reproducing.
Reproducing. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, there was a time when our family went through a basket fever,
Mm-hmm.
and we would buy baskets for anything. Oh, for the coins, for the car keys, for the for the
Yeah.
shoes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but anyways, yeah. So this company, uh, every time it seemed, as we were talking to them, every time it seemed that a new generation member took over, um, it was a kind of a challenging time in the company that they were having, um, and so the incoming CEO would think, what is it that we can do to keep going, stay strong, uh, and maybe not necessarily keep selling the same things, right? So uh, by this third generation was the CEO who came up with the idea of, you know, why not focus on cardboard? And can you take a wild guess, either of you? Now we've been talking about different companies and how they tell us why they pivoted. Like the main reason why they pivoted. Can you take a wild guess as to one of the reasons they pivoted from what they were doing into cardboard?
You mean from tatami to cardboard? Is that
Right,
the pivot?
right.
Well, yeah, it's difficult to imagine. I would guess that maybe more and more homes, the new homes built, were using fewer tatamis. Probably there were fewer rooms with tatamis because I remember that basically seeing the older houses, most of the rooms there were tatami, and then the newer ones they had only one or two tatami rooms, and everything else was flooring. But this is a wild guess, so probably
It's a
it's not the
nice
right one.
guess.
But let's see.
It's a good guess.
A good guess? Okay,
It's a
happy
good
to hear that.
guess. Tim?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't know the timeline, but sometimes major historical events, um, you know, precipitate these kind of changes. But I don't know when that. Can you tell me when the transition happened?
Oh, you see, then I would give it away.
Okay. I mean, I was thinking like, and this is just a wild guess because all my guesses are wild. Oil shock, or something like that. I don't know why,
Mm.
but but anyway, go ahead. I'm curious.
Wow, another good guess.
Okay.
I'm trying to be supportive here. Uh, yeah, yeah. And going along with what Tim said, is usually it takes some great happening in someone's life or in the company's life in this case, to make the executives think about what can we really focus on, because what we've been doing is so fragile, right? Like it may not be sustainable, and so it takes a great event, and in this case it was the great earthquake that happened in the Kansai region, right?
All
Oh,
right.
not, wow. So
Mhm.
that recent, I mean, not recent, but sort of. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sort of recent, yeah. Yeah, and
Mhm.
then and this is interesting because if you recall, in maybe the last two or three companies that we've talked about, they mentioned that earthquake as well.
Yes, I remember that very well. So,
Yeah, so I'm beginning to see a small pattern of some major event that causes these SMEs to say, we have to rethink what we're doing, and then how do we use this event in a positive way
Mm-hmm.
to help us into something new, to venture into something new. And I'm throwing that word venture because entrepreneurs need to also keep that in mind. Is that look at things, these big events that happen around the world or to us personally, and use that as an opportunity to say, maybe
Yeah.
we have to rethink what we're doing at the current time. So, yeah, um,
Well,
I, yeah,
yes, with that on that point, actually, it's once again fascinating to me because I remember that during the pandemic, during the first several months of the pandemic, a lot of companies overseas, not in Japan, but many companies in overseas went bankrupt because they said
mhm,
we cannot sustain anymore. Our business is dead, and there were few. Compared to the number of the companies that went bankrupt, there were some companies that pivoted and they came up with great ideas and they survived. And I think that maybe that's something that, as you say, more people, of course, startups founders and also new company owners need to keep an open mind for that business is not linear, right? It goes in circles, it goes in spirals. Sometimes you have to go back and sometimes you have to leap instead of just sitting there and waiting for things to happen to you. So thank you very much for making this point and bringing it here, actually, for
yeah,
everybody to see.
And I just one quick comment. Like we talk about pivoting, right? And that's an action. You're taking an action. You're
Right.
pivoting, right?
Yes.
To me, I think you can pivot once you have a vision that you want to try. You know, and to me, the magic, the secret sauce is having the ability to visualize or to see those openings in the market, those gaps to be filled. I think that's a pretty rare thing because if it wasn't, everybody would be doing it. So I find it very fascinating that with every new leader, they had the vision. I don't
mm,
know if that's in their DNA or they were trained that
mm,
way but to me, I find that amazing. So go ahead.
yeah,
Just a
yeah.
quick
Good
comment.
point. That you said that every time a new leader took over, they saw opportunity and said, okay, I want this company to continue, and so what is it that we can do to, instead of saying, oh cool, I inherited this, and then I can just enjoy the ride, right?
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes it's
Uh,
very easy to just sit back and wait and say,
yes,
yeah, let's see what happens.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's.
And this wasn't my fault. I didn't hear, I didn't create the situation. Like that's the
Mm-hmm.
excuse making that is deadly for a company because
Mhm.
there are no excuses. You either survive or you don't, right? Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
again,
Well,
it's very interesting.
I know there's a Japanese expression, but also Chinese has a version of it, and obviously it's been translated into English. But there's this expression that goes, uh, "The first generation creates it, the second one keeps it, and the third one destroys it."
Oh,
No, it
wow.
might be some truth to that. Yeah.
Yes,
Isn't that
Yeah.
interesting?
it
Um,
Yeah.
is.
yeah. Okay, let's go to the next slide.
Yeah.
Obviously, like all companies, this company faced many challenges, and they were very honest with us. They said, having an SME, established SME, doesn't mean that it's smooth every single day, and things go well, and you're going to make a lot of money and you're going to be happy forever and ever. But they said basically it's up and downs. It's just, it can be seasonal. It can be another great event that happens that makes you rethink what you're doing, or question what you're doing. And I like the expression where they say SMEs. They say, we SMEs walk a very tight rope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is not
They
unlike
do
an
it. Yeah.
entrepreneur, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Not much room for error. No, very little margin there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because startups are kind of in the same field where you're trying something that is audacious
Mm-hmm.
and very little room for mistake and very little room for um, growth where a competitor can just come in and swallow you up and smash you. I like to watch that TV show Shark Tank. Are you
Oh,
familiar
Shark
with
Yeah.
it?
Tank.
I used to watch that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. Well,
Yeah.
Mr. Wonderful, Mr. Wonderful, who is not so wonderful, um,
Yeah.
occasionally he says to these startup founders that come and pitch their ideas, he says, "Your idea is so simple. What's going to stop me from just stomping you into into obliteration and just doing the same thing?"
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right. Copy. Yeah. Yeah. Copy. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's right. That entrepreneurs, just like SMEs, have very little um, leeway or very narrow
Yeah.
path that they have to take and make
Yeah.
it through.
Yeah.
So overcoming challenges, adaptability, resilience. I think Maya talked about this several times before. Resiliency of
Right.
overcoming these challenges that you're going to be facing, um, and then of course adapting and looking at new opportunities and what can we do. So how do we do that? How do we overcome these challenges? So let's go to the next slide. And it's something that you learn in MBA school.
Yes.
Analyze,
So very
analyze.
true. Analyze, and yeah, look
And then
at
after
what you
that,
have.
analyze some more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Joe, just a quick comment. I know that you are
Yes.
technically an academic, but what I love about the way you present is you use very plain language. You don't get tied up in jargon. So I appreciate that. I just noticed
Right.
this as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you.
So,
Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I, 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 here's a funny story, a sideline. Well, Tim reminded me of this story. So when I was in high school, as you know, I was an immigrant to the U.S. English is not my first language, and so I struggled with vocabulary and I couldn't understand classes. Back then, there was no such thing as what is it? English as a second language, ESL.
Right.
ESL, yeah.
It didn't
Mm.
exist. No such
Mm-hmm.
thing. And so they sent me to this class with the handicapped kids. I don't know, is that appropriate word? Handicap, I guess.
It might be on the forbidden word list, but I won't hold it against you.
Thank you, thank you.
Challenge.
I'm not sure because things evolve so often.
Yeah,
But
right,
So
right. You
yeah.
can't keep up.
yeah, so that's
But
where they sent me, and I would just cry and cry, and I told my mom I'm not going to go back to school. Forget about that. And she's like, no, you have to go. I happened to meet a boy, a classmate who lived in the same area as we did, a neighborhood, maybe a block away. And I started to notice he would walk to school the same way. So I started talking to him and my broken English. And and I noticed that he was really smart. And so I asked him one day, I said, how do you do that? Why are you so smart? And how do you get good grades? And he said, oh, well, I learned 3 new words every day.
Mm.
He says, read the dictionary and just read 3 new words and then use it the next day as you're
Right.
speaking to
yeah,
the teacher. So I did
Mm-hmm.
that for a
yeah.
year, right? I did that
Oh,
for a year.
Good.
And then after a year, obviously my vocabulary went really high and I learned all these words. And I told him, I said, and his name was Alan. I said, Alan, thank you so much for your advice about the vocabulary. And he says, what advice? And I said, remember you told me to memorize 3 words. He says, oh, no, I was just kidding. Tim
But it
says.
worked.
But
But
it
it worked.
worked.
Yes,
It worked.
Anyways,
it
the
worked.
reason I I tell this story is because I when I write or when I'm reading, I love vocabulary, and sometimes it does slip out. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
I try to control it.
Well, let the
right.
record show that you survived without ESL. So, congrats,
That's
hats
right.
off to you, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah, yeah. So analyze. Going back to analyzing, Maya's familiar with this. During her long studies, she had to take lots of data
Yeah,
and case studies and book
lots of
chapters
yeah.
and all kinds of fun things. And I think Maya said she'd like to do it again, right?
Oh yes, if I had the chance, I would do it again, all over again. I
Yeah, look
entirely
at you.
enjoyed that. Yes.
That's great. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. In this case, this company, what they did was they analyzed everything. Obviously, the products themselves, the process, how they make it, but most importantly, financials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Financials. It comes down to numbers, right? So there you
Yes.
go. We've got our reminder for our halfway point, but
Our 2 minute
as,
warning.
as we're talking about numbers, right? The 2 minute
Yes.
warning. Um, this is one topic that a lot of entrepreneurs either overlook or they think, oh, we'll think about that later when it comes to
Right.
that time.
Mm.
And to be honest, entrepreneurs should really have strong analytical analyzing skills of financials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really important. Maya, you took one or
Oh,
two financial courses.
no, I took actually more than that. I took the
Oh,
different accounting classes. I took the finance classes. Actually, three finance classes I did, and
ouch.
three accounting classes, which was great because before that, I knew that they were important, but only during taking those classes and after that, I realized that, well, I had no idea how important they were. So it's fascinating, and numbers do tell stories. And if you
Hmm.
can see the story in the numbers, then I think that you're halfway through the any hardship actually you might have.
Yeah. Which brings us to our halfway point.
Yes, right.
I'll be
Our
right back.
sponsors. You want to
Mhm.
talk about
Our
our sponsors?
sponsors, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I would love to say once again, sorry for this, a big thank you to our other sponsor, Houze Inc. So Houze is a company that is also based in Yokohama, and they offer bilingual services in custom home design, in construction and renovations. They also do commercial building construction. So if you want to work with them, I do recommend you and urge you to connect with Hannah or James Howell on LinkedIn, or you can also reach out to her at hannah@kanachu.com. Hannah does work for both companies, so she responds to hannah@kanachu.com. So please do not hesitate, reach out to her and connect on LinkedIn or send her an email. Yes, thank you, Joe, for this. And I think that we can continue. I hope that everybody realizes really that it is important to learn accounting and financial analysis if you haven't done that yet. And you're thinking about actually getting your company up and running, or you already have it.
Or buying a home.
Yes, or buying a home at the same. Yes, that's another thing. Buying a home or, doing a project, any kind of project.
Yeah, you have
Because
to consider your
yes,
finances, right?
yes. Or even
Yeah.
if you just invest your money, into the stock market, it's also helpful to understand how money works and when you can invest and what to invest in.
Now, some of you may be lucky, and you might have a spouse that's better at it than you are.
Yeah.
Right.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
I am.
My view of financials are way simpler than either of you because I never studied it formally. But one thing I learned being in business by myself is you want more money coming in than going out. That was kind of my guidelines. Yeah,
Right, yes.
cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. But
Yeah,
I,
and I also think, yes, Joe, you mentioned something that's really great. And if you do that, if you keep that principle, then eventually you will build some equity, right? And I believe that for startups, actually, it's really difficult to build any equity in the beginning because the money is so scarce. It's little, and you have to do with very little assets, actually, financial assets, run the business and even try to expand it.
yeah, and the financials can literally make or break you as a startup, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's oftentimes it is the one major obstacle. It's not really the ideas or the people, because you can always get a better team, but it's the financials, right? Like it can just stop you
Yeah,
quickly.
very,
Yeah, so
very much so.
so looking at your financials. Uh, However, let's go to the next slide. Financials doesn't necessarily mean that you focus primarily on making money,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes not making money can give you the opportunity to continue to innovate and create and say, why are we not making money? Or how do we get out of this, right? And so it's an opportunity, and in this case, that's what happened with the company.
Mm-hmm.
When the current CEO took over and had this great idea of changing and pivoting into cardboard products, they started losing money. So you begin to question yourself. Oh, did I just kill this great company that had an opportunity and
right,
with my
right,
crazy idea, you know?
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but they reassessed and said, okay, let's look at exactly what our financials are. Let's look at exactly where we're losing money and where we can patch things up, and not necessarily focus on the outcome, meaning making money, right?
Right.
But rather
right.
the good that we're doing for society. Um, and so rather than focus on making money, and they focused more on the good that they were providing society. And by doing that, by focusing on really what they wanted to do to help society, that's when they started making money,
Oh, that's
right?
fascinating.
It is. So if you
Right.
take us to the next slide, you'll see a picture here. It's much bigger, not huge, but much bigger. These are beds made of
Beds.
cardboard.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow,
Right.
that's amazing. Yeah,
Fascinating. It
I've
is
heard of
amazing.
those now. Now that just jogged the memory. Go ahead. That's interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
Um, and these were placed on in display as a way for them to say, okay, rather than just selling our product, how can we help the greater good of society? And then they came upon the idea of, why don't we produce products that will help during events where people need something temporary, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
necessarily a long term, but something really quick. And that's how they came up with the idea, saying, well, when there's earthquakes and other natural disasters, or somebody's house is on fire and they lose their house, and no place to, or finances to pay for a hotel or whatnot, we can still help them.
Yeah.
Hmm.
However, as you can imagine, it's not like Japan has horrible earthquakes, thank goodness, every week. Right?
True.
We
Yeah.
have small ones, but
Mm-hmm.
not life changing ones. And
Right.
so you can imagine, well, there's all these cardboards being produced, but no one's using them, no one needs them, no one's purchasing them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So not really making the money that they thought they were going to be making. So how do you overcome that?
Yeah. So
Right.
do you start producing other products as well that
That's
can be
right.
used
That's right.
Yeah.
that yeah, can be used in everyday life?
Exactly.
Practical stuff. Yeah. Oh, interesting.
exactly. Practice. Like something that someone would appreciate and say, well, I don't need a whole living room of cardboard items, but I would love to have one that's
Right, yeah.
a centerpiece of discussion, for example.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's what they started doing. So that takes us to the next slide.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah,
Brilliant. Brilliant.
isn't that nice? I would love
Yes,
to. I would like to have that. If you have a small office and you're an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, you don't have a
yes,
lot of big budget. Okay, let's buy something that just works.
exactly, yes. It does the job.
Yes, and it's
Just
strong and
a
sturdy. And
quick a quick question though, because again, as I mentioned earlier, Japan can be extremely humid. So was there innovation involved in making cardboard that is a little bit not, I don't want to say impervious, but resistant to humidity, weakening from it?
yes, in their manufacturing process, yes,
Oh,
yes,
Okay.
great.
yeah. I had the same question. I was like, well, what if I drop my coffee? I don't know. Well, I don't drink coffee.
Hmm.
My tea. I drop my
Yeah.
tea
Yeah.
uh, on my bed.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah, they took all those kinds of things into consideration, and so
Gotcha.
they do last longer than your average cardboard box,
Mm-hmm.
right? Uh,
Yeah.
but as you
No,
can see, it's great design.
yes,
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
was going to say they were very cute and very actually usable. I mean, the size looks nice, the design looks nice, and if they can last for a year or two or three even, then there is nothing better. I mean, just use them
It's
everywhere
a kind
because I
of
also
I no, it's just got an IKEA vibe almost. But go ahead.
Yes,
Sorry, Maya.
yeah, no, I wanted to say that I imagine that they're also lighter than any other items made of metal or wood. So they're probably easy to move around to places where you need them at that specific time.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Well, recently in my university, all of us, uh, if you're full time, we have what's called a zemi,
Mm-hmm.
which I guess in English would just be seminar class, right?
Right.
Got
A thesis course,
yeah.
and I traditionally have only a handful of students for many reasons. One, on purpose, I'm trying to keep it small. It's more
Yeah.
manageable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously there's other reasons, and students have different interests, so they go to other professors and whatnot. But this year I have a slightly larger group than normal, and this year I have six. Typically
Mm-hmm.
I have three, maybe four, but this time I have six, and I noticed quickly that I ran out of space in my office, so I
Oh.
was
Yeah.
thinking of, well, what could I do, and I didn't I didn't feel comfortable in purchasing a traditional table,
Mm-hmm.
um, to give the students a place to sit, and I didn't feel comfortable with spending that kind of money because maybe the next year I only have one student, and
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
a waste of money. So
Right.
Indeed.
um, I wish, and then I think I'm gonna reach out to this company and say, do you have anything, maybe custom made, this length, this width, blah
Right.
blah blah, and then see if they're able to accommodate, and then I can place it in my small office to fit six students that can use it because they're only there for 2 hours a week. That's
Yes.
it.
Right. Yeah.
3 hours, sorry,
Yeah.
3 hours a week with me. So it's not like they're there all day long every day.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
And it would be nice. So those kinds of great times that you can use this kind of furniture.
Also,
Yes.
can you fold it up and make it real small and compact and store it because of the
Yes,
design?
yes,
Or
yes.
that's another advantage. So you can quickly fold and put it somewhere and get it out of the way. Okay, brilliant.
Yeah, you got
Yeah.
a couple of guests coming, and and you have a nice mat you put on top, and they'll be
Yeah.
comfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
They
yeah,
will be.
nice.
yeah. As you recall, in previous discussions, I was in the military, and we could basically sleep anywhere.
You said that, yeah. I can
You
imagine.
sleep on top of rocks.
Well,
When
but
you're
I
tired.
imagine it, yeah, it's always nice to have even what's that, one layer of paper or cardboard, right? Below you
Yes.
or between you, the ground, you and the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And cardboard is surprisingly more comfortable than, let's say, a wood frame.
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
You know,
interesting.
wood
Uh,
frame, you would wake up with body aches.
Right.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, um, so this going back to the company's products. This is one way that they began to innovate, so that they were able to say, this is how they express it. They said, we want our customers to say to the general public, to themselves, and to us, I want to see that company survive
Right.
because of the good that they're doing, because of the social good that they're doing. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty profound, that they want their
Yeah,
customers
yeah,
to feel that, right?
yeah. That resonated because I've mentioned before one of my Japanese business leader heroes was Takeshi Kazuma, and he was really not only him. A lot of the Japanese companies back then were we want to contribute to society. I mean, that was always some American companies will say it, but they really just want to make money. That's kind of what
Mm.
most of them, how they strike me, not all of them. And he said, this was kind of not a direct quote, but pretty close. He said, those who can add value and contribute to society will win in the end. So I thought that was a really very Japanese sentiment that I think other companies echo it too.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, if you think about it, that's probably the whole fundamental approach that companies like IKEA takes, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
rather than paying for expensive things, or an expert to put your bed together, if you do it yourself, not only do you save money, but you also learn new skills, right?
yeah.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what else is brilliant about IKEA? Years ago, I bought this big bookcase. They're just squares, but it took up my whole wall. And the directions were all visual. There wasn't
Mm-hmm.
one word written on those directions, which
Mm-hmm.
is, it was so brilliantly done. It was so easy. And imagine they didn't have to translate all that stuff into different languages. They could, so yeah, I agree. Their simplicity is like genius sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, good point. No need to translate. No need to hire somebody, or
Mm-hmm.
produce different versions. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, the company has continued forward doing the same thing, where they're producing these kinds of innovative products, and they have discussions with their teams, but also they want to continue to focus on the social good. And so, yeah, if we go to the next slide,
Yes.
by doing so, is now what they're trying to do is collaborate with individual municipalities. However, as you know, very interesting about Japan is it's almost like I remember many years ago I was taking a government class. By accident, I took a 400 level government class as a freshman.
Yeah.
And you normally don't do that. You take like 100, 101, for example.
Mhm.
But I took a 400 and I barely survived it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was terribly, terribly difficult. But I remember something my teacher said is he said, everybody goes to China and thinks that all Chinese are the same. And
Hmm.
they're not. They're
Right.
not. They speak different dialects sometimes. They have different uh, cultural festivals that are
Subculture.
quite different. The food is
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Their thinking is different sometimes because China is quite big.
Yeah.
And Japan is interesting because Japan is rather small compared to China, but yet it can be quite different from 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 one area to another. You know,
Right.
um, and unfortunately, that's a big challenge that this company is having. Is they thought that by us working together with the Japanese government, which is what they're doing for natural disasters, it turned out that they had to actually have individual contracts, individual agreements with each
Oh,
municipality.
right.
Yeah. So yeah. Tim is like, oh,
No, I know. I get it. Go ahead. Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's
Mm.
um, yeah, and then I come from academia, I guess. Um, it's the same situation with education, and so sometimes people say, "Oh, well, Japanese education can be changed. It can be improved this way, that." Yeah, in one area, but that, but if you want to change it in another city, that's a completely different animal.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, oh, once you said another city, and if we talk about bigger metropolitan areas like Tokyo and Osaka, so
Uh,
you've got the wards there as well, and
Yes,
each ward has their own educational board, and so you
yes,
have to go through that board as well, and it's just a daunting task to go one by one with each one of those.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
the
You're right.
Yeah, I have a question, Maya, because is it fair to say that the basic Japanese curriculum is fairly standardized relative to other countries, certainly mine. But
Yes,
within that standard model, there are variations, but the curriculum is basically the same. Is that correct to say?
I think it is correct, yes. There are slight
Okay.
variations depending on the school, how they are taught. And each school has their own culture, of course, like companies, they are the same, but the curriculum is the same. Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify. Gotcha.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I um I sometimes do a little bit of work with a former student of mine who created a company, an education company,
Yeah.
and yeah, every time he pitches his idea of workshops and whatnot to different cities, he has to reinvent the wheel, if you will, if you will,
Yeah, yeah. Customize it.
Mm.
because their resources are different, the
Yeah.
way the decision making is done is
Hmm.
slightly
Yeah.
different, et cetera, the documentation is different.
Yeah.
So
And
so
I can see the number here. It's
yes,
17,441 municipalities.
yes,
Ah,
and growing.
Yes, and
and I'm
growing.
sure it's growing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then you see that other number 500. That's actually how many
Yes.
they've been successfully able to sign agreements with
Yeah.
out of the
Oh gosh.
17,000.
Well, but
Oh my goodness.
that's a lot of work still. Imagine
Yes.
500 locations. They needed to go there physically and develop the relationship there, build trust, talk with the local people, learn what they need, the specifications, the customization, everything. That's
Hmm.
so much work. I just cannot imagine how much effort and energy and time it took.
Yeah, and yeah, and it shows that they really believe in what they're doing. They didn't give
Yes.
up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and they've been able to help out, as you can see, in with 21 different natural disasters that have occurred, not just in Japan but abroad as well. So that's
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
part of their global program is reaching out to other nations who need a quick solution, and they're able to provide it so for the social good, right?
Yes.
Um,
Nice.
yeah, which takes us to the next slide and going back to the financials, right? It's
Yeah.
the public interest over the company profits. That is their priority. Um, it doesn't get better than that, to be honest. And,
No, it doesn't.
you know, to me, that is what identifies a great SME, and why we study these SMEs is because they're thinking long term, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
how do we provide these great products for a good cause, still make some profit? We don't have to be, number one worldwide or the biggest or whatnot, because they're still SMEs. They remain rather small, but that's what sustains them. That's what keeps them going, and they're able to say, we've been in business 50 years, 60
Yeah.
years, 70, 100.
Mm.
Then tech companies, not, tech companies are rather new, so the music hasn't ended yet.
Mm-hmm.
But
No, it
Music.
hasn't.
there are many tech companies who have disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's really fascinating what you say, Joe, because all the cases I studied through my MBA program, I mean, cases about Japanese companies, and there were dozens and dozens of those cases. So basically, in every single case, the vision of the company was long term. So there was no single company there that would think short term and put their own profit above the social good. So,
Yeah.
and
And
they started with that and they continued. So all of them
yeah.
have kept in business, pivoting and innovating. They have kept in business not just for several decades, but some of them have been here for over a century or two, even.
Mhm.
Yeah. I see that as a reflection of genuine process oriented thinking. Focus on the process of innovating to contribute to society, and the results will take care of themselves. That's in a
Mhm.
nutshell.
Yeah, yes.
I think SMEs could lend this wisdom to startups,
Hmm.
Yeah.
to if you can just focus on what you're trying to do, but give it give it a little twist of long-term vision, uh, and keep that as part of the maybe the process, or part of the foundation of the company, is this long-term vision. Then I think you will be more happy with the outcome in the end, or
Yeah,
hopefully there is no end, but more happy with the outcome as the company continues forward.
yeah.
Um,
But
because I've
Joe,
asked
go. Yeah.
I've asked a couple of startup or founders, like, why are you going into entrepreneurship? And like, oh, I want to make money. I was like, oh.
Yes, that's the point. So I wanted to ask you, do you think that there are some cultural differences? Because I am really convinced now that the mindset is different. And the mindset in Japan and Northeast Asia and the mindset in the Western world, these two mindsets are different. And here, because of the historical developments, also religious beliefs, the philosophies they have based their social order on, and so on and so on, the mindset is more long-term oriented in this part of the world. And then back home, it's people are more inclined in any aspect of life. Of course, it's in the startup environment, but also other areas of everyday life. People are more short-term oriented, and we want more immediate results.
Yeah,
So,
and Maya, to that point, because that you nailed it. It really is cultural, and I almost believe if I'm an entrepreneur in the U.S. and I'm going in to make my pitch, and I talk about contributing to society, there's almost going to be this stigma attached, saying, "Okay, that sounds more like an MPO." In other words, there's this framing that contributing to society and making a profit are like mutually exclusive, and the Japanese say no, they go hand in hand and they feed off of each other. That's my take. And again, as Maya said, I think it's so much is related to culture and the group orientation, a long-term orientation, all those things. Just a comment.
No, I agree. I with both of you. I think, and I've actually kind of mentioned it in a couple of local discussion groups, that what's happening in Japan is this great interest in entrepreneurship. Not that it didn't exist before, because it did. It was just, it just defined differently. But there's this great interest in startups and entrepreneurship and all that. And that's great. It's a good thing. But my take on it is that we need to, rather than saying, oh, well, here's a Silicon Valley template, why don't we use that in Japan? Rather than doing that, saying, how do we take this template, recreate it so that it fits and works well with the culture?
yeah,
You know.
indeed. I love that too, because once again, I'm sorry to repeat myself, but it seems that because in the West we want immediate results, we tend to think that just overlaying a pattern or a mold on some, a different, let's say, society or different culture or different business or a different organization, it would start working immediately. And it doesn't. It actually needs adjustments. It needs a lot of observations. It needs a lot of
Yes.
yes, once again, adjustments. That's probably the best word to use, because nothing fits perfectly for a thing that it was not created for, right?
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I sometimes hear the same rumblings when it comes to venture capital, right? Oh, venture capital in Japan is not working, and what's going on? They're not really investing big bucks in these startups, and I think we need to shift away from that. We cannot, or we should not
should not.
compare Japan to Silicon
Right.
Valley, and
Right.
but I
Yeah.
but I'm getting away. I'm getting away from the main topic here.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, because we're running out of time. Actually, we did, but go ahead. Let's make your point. Take us
Let's
home,
go to the
Joe.
last slide, and
Yes.
the
Perfect.
takeaway really is this great expression. They focus on customer centric, but he actually, or the CEO actually said, victim centered design. And
Right.
Victims, what? Once more?
victim
Victim
centered.
centered.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
but this we have to put this in context. So they're talking
Exactly.
about the victims of natural disasters, I believe,
Yes.
and
Yes.
man-made
Gotcha.
disasters as well. Yes.
Gotcha.
Right. Right.
Good.
Rather than, any other type of victim, or looking
Right.
at it in a negative way, right? So it's
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And as you know, it's a takeaway. I thought, wow, that's pretty profound. And that was actually one of the last things during our interview with the executive, that was one of the last sentences that they said, and we thought, wow, that was really great way of saying that's who we are as a company. You know,
Yeah.
we're focusing on the customer, aka victim centered.
Yes.
Gotcha.
It's really, yes, it's interesting. And once again, it goes back to that saying that the chain breaks at the weakest link, right? And in every society, so basically every disaster hit area or organization or community, they become weak. And if you take care of them, basically you will strengthen your society back, right? Your community, your group, and everything, which is very profound. And they use it. I don't know whether this is the mission of their company or this is just their core value, right? But it is so beautiful, and I think that it also should work actually for many other companies and startups and SMEs as well, not only in Japan, out of Japan as well.
That's it.
That's it.
Well, that was
Wow.
perfect. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you so
Thank
very
you.
much. Yes. Oh, I love
And
yes, your presentations, your stories. They're
they're great.
always, yes,
This is
Thank you.
great.
beautiful.
Thank you.
I love it. Thank you.
Thank you for
Yes.
the opportunity. Yeah.
Oh no, thank you for being our guest speaker and sharing these stories with us and with everybody who is watching, because there is a lot to learn, really. And one more thing, because I want to make a disclaimer here. We talk a lot about positives here in Japan and the Japanese way of doing business, the corporate culture, and so on. And we sometimes get, a negative feedback criticizing us that there are so many things that need to be improved, and that's true. I mean, many things, even the good things, can be improved. But the point is that when you focus on the positives, you can learn from them as much as you can learn from negatives as well. But there are so many things that we can actually learn from here in Japan, and that have kept the businesses in in business, okay, and also the society have been cohesive because of these cultural values. So yes, I think that we welcome negative feedback as well, but you will continue hearing us talk about the positives more and more and more. So Joe, thank you very much for helping us do this. And
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
yes, we appreciate your time and your knowledge and the research, and also the time of your students. So,
Yeah.
to every,
Thank you.
yeah, and I'm looking forward to the next one already. Cannot
Yeah.
Yeah.
help it.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes. Thank
you.
you, everyone, for listening.
When's the next one, Joe?
Oh, the next one
When?
is in January.
January. There
So
you go.
Yes.
yoi otoshio. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Have a great holiday. And again, thank you for all the contribution to our podcast this year. Really, you've added a lot of value, and I always enjoy these. So thank you so
No,
much.
thank you. To
Thank you
me, it's
very
a
much.
pleasure to share what the companies have.
Yeah.
Right.
Great. And well, to everybody who stayed with us, thanks for listening and for learning from Dr. Joe Hug. We hope that you enjoyed the, the podcast as much as we did, or even more. And before we say goodbye and wish you a happy midweek, I would like to say once again a word of thank you to our two sponsors, Kanagawa Chuo Jutaku, Kanchu, and Houze Inc. So if you have any projects in mind, reach out to James Howell and Hana Uroshizawa Howell. You will find their contact details in the description of the video on YouTube, and on LinkedIn you can very easily reach out to them and connect with them if you haven't yet. And so if you're getting ready for the holidays, which I know you are, well, enjoy the preparations, and of course, stay with us because we'll continue our weekly podcasts during the holidays as well. Well, that's it for the moment. Thank you very much, and enjoy the day.
Thank you, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thank you.